In order to more efficiently manage any questions you may have for Deborah Coviello, we will be using a program called Slido. We are inserting the link for Slido here in the chat. If you want to submit a question, simply type in the question field at the top of the screen. And if you want your name to show, type it in the field directly below before submitting your question. If you will prefer to remain anonymous, you do not enter your name in the field. At the end of the presentation, during the Q&A session, I will share my screen and Deborah will go over your questions. If you like a question, or if your question has already been asked, you can click on the thumbs up icon to the right of the question, and the question will be prioritized. Also, if you have any technical Zoom problem, please send a direct message to me, ASQ volunteer Daniela, in the Zoom chat privately so we can assist you. I will now hand it over to the session moderator, Tony Mark.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Tracy and Ascend. Welcome back, attendees. I am Tony Mark with the ASQ Vancouver Leadership Group. Session topic is peace of mind, the new tool in the toolbox, how to influence and leave a lasting impact with Deborah Coviello. Deborah is based in Cincinnati, Ohio. Deborah will share insights into a new way to view the leadership of quality professionals. This session will help to uncover an approach to assessing organizational needs in a holistic way that addresses functional and emotional aspects of an organization in terms of quality. Deborah has over 20 years of experience in quality and operational excellence roles. She is an ASQ certified Six Sigma Black Belt professional and a Motorolla University Six Sigma Green Belt instructor. She enjoys giving back to ASQ community through mentorship, sharing, practical application of the human development and learning body of knowledge to everyday situations, and has a background in biomedical engineering. Also, I know that Deborah enjoys curling and has won a silver medal in United States arena curling with the Cincinnati Curling Club in 2017. She will present for 30 minutes and we'll go over questions in Slido afterwards. I believe Deborah joins us from New Jersey quarantine. I hope things are well over there. So over to you, Deborah.
And thank you so much, Tony. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. And just thank you for ASQ Vancouver and all of the committee representatives who have made and brought this amazing program to you. Thank you for working with me to help let me share some of my thoughts with you. And as I get started, I want to leave you with one promise. In line with the theme, Rethink Opportunities United in Change, I promise you, you will leave with at least one new thought, possibly more, as much as 7, from my peace of mind, my 7P approach, the new tool in the toolbox, because ultimately we as leaders want to make a difference and leave a lasting impact. And so I want you to get comfortable, deeply listen, give yourself permission to be in the moment, listen to what I share, and just know this is a conversation with you. It's just you and me. I want you to think, absorb, listen, and as I share some of my insights with you, I am hoping when we're done, you will think a little bit differently. So as Tony said, I have over 20 years of experience, but I think what is most important that I've learned over time, and like you, I have honed my technical craft. One of the things that I learned so much, and maybe even later in my career, was the people are the heart of what we do. And while we are very technically competent through our certifications and the great work and opportunities we have in our career or as consulting with clients, at the end of the day, we are trying to achieve trust, peace of mind with the people that we serve, the teams that we're on, the customers. And this is the insight that I am sharing with you. And please know, I am one of you. I was like one of you, working, moving up in my career and operational excellence career. And it was only later in life that I came to some of these insights that I'm sharing with you. And if you can benefit from some of these insights, I would love to know more. But again, take a moment, listen, think, be in the moment, and let's keep going. And so one of the reasons why peace of mind, we're not talking about results, we're talking about peace of mind, I find is a new way to elevate your leadership and the people that you lead, or whoever in the organization, elevate their leadership impact. What we're trying to do ultimately in the work that we do to set foundations in quality or solve problems is ultimately we're trying to influence a different result. And I have come to find that we need to shift our mindset, and we need new skills. We need more skills that connect emotionally and leave you with peace of mind. Now, I will just give you a quick story along the way why this is so important. Is that as I moved up in my career, I became the director of quality. I gave my monthly management review. I dotted every I crossed every T. I gave all the information that leadership needed. So there was nothing left to be asked. I gave them all the information. And then this happened. Crickets. Nobody spoke. Painful. No questions. No comments. I failed miserably. As the director of quality, I didn't help the leadership in having conversation, discussion, or any calls to action. I technically delivered the right message, but I failed to connect with people emotionally and achieve a greater outcome. So that's even my personal failure, but I'll tell you, out of all of these, there are many successes that I want to share with you. So let's keep going here. So I propose a solution for you is that when we help ourselves, the people we lead, or the teams that we oversee, that we need to expand our mindset, that not just to use our great technical skills to achieve results, but instead I propose to you that we think in terms of an outcome, which is often based on purpose. And when we think and work in a way of outcome, we elevate our influence. We not only functionally solve quality and operations problems, but we connect with people emotionally for a lasting impact. And peace of mind is something that I use quite often, because when you see peace of mind, you know it. You know that you have elevated your team, your work, your business to connect with customers and consumers on an emotional level. And you know it what you see it. It's not based on a result. It's based on how we connect with people. Now, I will tell you a quick story here, how you know what peace of mind looks like. In my consulting practice, a vice president of operations says, I need you. He was in the middle of a recall. He lost his director of quality. There was a pending plant closure, and he needed me to jump in and help oversee the organization and help him through this crisis. And as we spent time getting to know each other, his background, his culture, what really keeps him up at night, by the time we were done, we were nodding our heads up and down. He knew that I had his back. He knew that I connected with him emotionally. I understood he wanted peace of mind so he could manage the rest of the business, and I took care of the details. Have you ever seen peace of mind? Do you know what it looks like? Do you know how it feels when we've applied our best technical skills and achieve the purpose and outcome and get you to peace of mind? I want you to reflect on that a little bit as we continue forward. And so the reason why I found, this should seem obvious why people struggle with this, is that I have found that in our quality profession, and I know that we are evolving, traditional ways of elevating and building the skills of our quality professionals no longer serve us. And we wonder why. And we often find that we may teach our quality professionals soft skills. We'll send them to a class. Good luck, acquire new skills. And then they come back and there's no support system to evolve the human and those skills. So we treat technical skills so often separate from the soft skills. And that's why we sometimes fail, and it's difficult. And then sometimes we think in terms of, okay, you have these new soft skills. You've got your technical training. But at the end of the day, how are we able to influence change, which is far more complex than just getting better communication skills and developing your technical skills to solve problems? We need an influence framework, and that's the missing piece that I have found over the years. So I want you to think about that. I'm going to breathe and I want you to think about that. And let's think about your struggles that you may have had to get a desired result, and maybe why it was hard. And let's keep going. So I am going to just spend a little bit of time in the current state and ground as how we typically address setting foundations or solving quality issues. We're going to talk about a new framework, which I've put together, which I really think will leave a lasting impact. And so let's begin, and we'll start here. So this looks quite familiar to many people. When we start in our quality or continuous improvement career, we set a good foundation in tackling problems in terms of people, platforms or tools, and process. We may even employ fishbone diagrams, man, method, machine, materials, etc. All very important skills that we need to solve problems and set the foundation. But the problem is that it only focuses in on a result, just a result. And that's what you'll get, and people will feel successful. But along the way, we don't teach people about change management. Maybe if you're lucky, you've had a course in change management, but sometimes we may have all of the right skills to get a result, and maybe we'll get to the result or not. And sometimes if you get to the result, have you ever had a situation where you didn't sustain it, didn't leave a lasting impact? And I'll paint a quick picture of what this looks like. When I was about 15 years ago, we had a 3% internal nonconformance rate for a flavor company. And I was tasked to reduce it because unless we got down to maybe a 1% rate, we couldn't implement other technical solutions to improve our lead time. And so I got from 3% down to 1% using people, platform, and process. But here's the thing. I spent time getting to know the people. I helped evolve their thinking. And when I ultimately left that company, one of my colleagues came to me and said, Deb, I said, you may not be with that company anymore, but you're all over the place. What do you mean? She says, I see you. I see the trends. I see your quality initiatives. I see your posters. You live on. Your impact has sustained those changes. So have you ever been in a situation where not only the results that you achieved and how you achieved it left a lasting impact? And if you haven't, let's keep going and talk about that. And so in the current state, and I'm going to just spend a little bit on this, when we help our professionals not only build traditional technical skills, there are some other things that I'm not going to spend too much time on, but I wanted to get them in here. It's so important, is that we present information. Maybe we've done some good change management. Our quality professionals sometimes are missing the ability to connect what they're trying to do to the language of business. Business. Have you ever had supply chain professionals, operations, finance people, you're trying to convince them to purchase a new piece of equipment, but you don't talk about ROI or bottom line savings or how is it going to give you top line growth? Unless we teach our quality professionals a little bit about the language of business, we're not going to have the influential message. I can talk a lot more about that, but I just want to think, do you know how to speak the language of business? Do the people in your group know how to do that? If not, you might want to think about some coaching in that area to achieve a better outcome. But let's just say we're going to move on and move into my framework, which I think is really why we're all here today. And hopefully you'll have a lot of questions. So this framework may look familiar to you. We have our house of quality, we have a foundation, we have our pillars and strategic objectives, as well as at the top is what the result is. But I have changed this because traditionally when you have foundational policies and systems and just the enabling pillars and just achieving a result, we don't connect with people emotionally. And that is why I have added on the top of the house, peace of mind, and at the bottom of the house, pride and past. Those additional items that are often missing are what is going to get you to peace of mind. So let's go into the individual items. When we think of past, we bring people together, we come from different organizations, We integrate teams. We are sometimes global or regional, and we're working with so many different. How often? Can you still hear me? It says that I'm muted. Okay, thank you. So often we don't take the time to understand people's rich culture. But I propose to you that if you or the people on your team don't take the time to truly get to know people, their past, their culture, their heritage, what they're known for, what do they feel good about, what makes them feel special. When you take the time to do that, one, you're acknowledging humanity, you connect with the people emotionally, and you build trust. And I will tell you that when you do that and acknowledge people's past, you create a rich working environment. And I will tell you that this is absolutely critical. I'll save a few of the stories for some more impactful things, but if you are not spending time to understand people's past or culture, you may be missing something when you try to bring people together to solve problems, or worst case, when you're in crisis. Let's go to pride. Now, pride is something that's very near and dear to your heart. Sometimes it's in your mind. But I have a definition for pride. It is the intersection of one's unique gifts or their intellectual property and the human side of who they are. Have you ever brought people together on your team or from different regions where you've never taken the time to understand their unique gifts? What did they do fantastic at their last job or company or project? Sometimes, in lean, those are wasted skills. But if we spend time, again, acknowledging the human, what do they bring to the table in terms of unique skills? You may find something very interesting that you can use at the last minute and achieve success. Now, let me give you a quick story. Tony talked to you about curling. When I was a fifth-year curler, put together a team for a special competition. I didn't know any of the players when I came together. And I will tell you again, curling, the sport with stones and brooms and things like that, we weren't doing very well after about 3 games. We were actually losing. And I was the captain or skip, and the vice skip pulled me aside and said, Deb, you're missing something. The skills of the 2 newer players of the front end, we hadn't leveraged their skills. They're really only good at these shots. We start using them for what you think you want to achieve the outcome, we're not going to win any games. And that person was right. As soon as I embraced the pride, the intellectual property, the unique skills that those new players had, we started winning. We made it to Sunday. We made it to the semifinals, and we achieved our objective. So think about it. When we take the time to understand people's unique gifts, you build trust, credibility on the team, and you never know when you might actually need to use that skill. So moving on to people. Now, I have a different perspective when it comes to the work that we do and people. People can be, okay, we've got to retrain people. We've got to have certain people on the team. But my definition of people is mentorship. How often do we bring people together? We expect them to perform, but we don't necessarily give them the feedback on how they are performing. We might have a sponsor on a team where we report out our results, but I will tell you, sometimes we just don't take the time to coach performance. So I propose to you that when you solve particular problems, find somebody to be a mentor for an individual that may need some help. And let me give you a quick story about where we took a situation, a performance issue, and with the proper mentoring, we evolved the human. There was an operator in our flavor facility that unfortunately made a mistake and resulted in a terrible contamination and a lot of lost money. And instead of saying, human, you were bad, here's some negative feedback, we'll retrain you on the procedure. Instead, we celebrated the human. We said, can you take this new knowledge that you have, what the mistake was, how can you do it better, and can you train others? We put this operator in front of individuals. They not only communicated what they did to solve this particular process issue, and at the same time, we built new skills in the person, public speaking, presenting a situation, influencing others. Talk about the greatest gift that we can do for humans, not just leverage them in a tactical sense, but elevate them while we're doing purposeful work. To think about it, how often do we do this or not do it? And so let's talk about process. And I know I'm speaking very quickly. I want to make sure we leave enough time to get to your questions and all. But when I think in terms of process, in terms of peace of mind, it's not necessarily the new tool or the SOP that we're developing, but it's how do we build high performing teams? It's not about what the team does to achieve a particular result or an outcome, but how the team operates. You can have the best implementation, the best solution, but as soon as people start coming together, things get interesting, even if we've spent time to understand their past or their pride. But is there somebody inserted into the process as teams start solving problems that helps them with performance issues? Have you had people not communicating? Have you had people not delivering on the results? Change management doesn't always solve these things, but when we put a sponsor or a mentor who can observe the entire process of a team and how they perform and coaching their performance on how they resolve differences, when you don't do that, teams can be bogged down, delaying results, and sometimes not achieving what we set out to be. So I really propose when we want to have a successful outcome, we need to absolutely coach performance. And I'll just give you a really quick story here where I didn't do it very well. I was a high performer. I was sent to leadership school. I was doing a project management exercise, getting a particular result, and they changed the game on me. They say, you're going to go to another room, solve the same problem, but you have new people. So I went to the new room. I figured out where they were at. I immediately rolled up my sleeves and started solving the problem. And immediately one of the people crossed their arms and said nothing. And when we debriefed the project, I asked them, what happened? Why weren't you speaking? He said, because you came into the room. I didn't know you. I didn't know the angle that you came in with, and you shut me down. I couldn't participate. Now talk about me learning in a classroom setting that I disengaged a particular person. Why don't we put people around the teams that we have to be able to see that dynamic and coach for a better performance? So maybe we don't disengage or disenfranchise people. So think about it. I made a mistake in a safe environment. Think about how often people are making mistakes and aren't being coached for higher performance. So let's keep going. Platform, tools, they're the solution to all of our results. Let's get a new piece of equipment, a new platform. I will tell you that platforms are only the glue that tie together people, process, pride in the past. A tool is not necessarily the solution to a result. It's just an enabler. And I talk about that in the context of, I was with a company that we were integrating the big company and a little company, and it was so important to get them on the ERP system, the new tool, and we were laser focused on the platform. That was the result we wanted. Unfortunately, the problem was we didn't take time to understand their processes or the people, their pride in their past. They had all kinds of implementation problems, and we brought the customer to their knees. We couldn't service them. Had we started understanding the people and the processes, maybe we would have changed how we implemented the tool and not killed brand loyalty. So I leave you with that thought as a watch out, that when we talk about different solutions to what we're trying to do to get a result or outcome, platforms and tools and equipment are important, but don't make it the center of what we're doing at the fault of not spending time with coaching humans, performance, and things like that. So let's just keep going a little bit, and I'll only spend a little bit of time. So often we look at what we do, our performance reviews, team results, regional results, because it's easy. It's easy to measure quality. It's easy to measure service. It's easy to measure downtime. It's visible, but there's nothing in there about the human. And so while we must do that because we have to demonstrate to stakeholders that we get a particular result, it's not the end all game. It's really peace of mind. And just to illustrate this, let's just think about you if you are a parent or you have cousins or nephews, and this small child falls off their bike. The result that we think is let's fix the bike, let's fix the child, let's get the child back on the bike because that's the result that we're looking for. However, we miss the bigger outcome, the peace of mind, the purpose. Maybe the child just wants to keep up with their friends and have independence. But we as a parent are only focused on the result to get them back on the bike. Might we suggest, let's get those rollerblades, let's get the scooter, let's get, I don't know, a horse. So you can keep up with your friends and have the independence that you're seeking, which is the peace of mind or the outcome. How often do we only focus on results and not the bigger picture? So let's keep going. So peace of mind, let me illustrate what peace of mind looks like because I want to give us time for questions. When we think about peace of mind, a performance or results driven culture will only think in terms of we need to implement the following actions to reduce customer complaints. And when we do that, we high five, we're successful, we get a good results on our performance review. But at the end of the day, that customer can actually say, you know what, I'm going to go to another supplier. Hey, we may have had the best quality, but they still can leave. And a purpose, peace of mind driven, outcome driven culture might actually say this. We strive to be the preferred supplier of our customers and engage in partnering relationships that build trust in the supply chain. Now, talk about that is grander. Think about the activities under that that might actually get you to a different outcome. Had we just focused on just customer complaints, we may have missed so many opportunities to get people to think about, hey, let's go visit our customers. Let's have a quarterly business review. Let's exchange information. Let's partner on new technology. When we cascade purpose and outcome, you can achieve vastly different results and different outcomes. And so pause for a second and just let that sit in because I'm going to bring this home on some things that I think we can do to think differently and maybe choose to act differently. So I had 3 examples. I've given a few here, but I will just give you one example about a different outcome. We'll go to the bottom one, where in my consulting practice, I was working with a quality specialist to learn how to do internal audits. And while I could help them to check the box and have the entire structure of an effective internal audit program, at the end of the day, what are we really trying to do with internal audits? At the end of the day, we want to let leaders sleep at night knowing that all the systems, the quality systems, the food safety systems, whatever is in place, they can trust that they are going to perform day in and day out. And the internal audit program is that vehicle to give them that confidence that the systems work. As soon as we help the quality specialists, the up and coming quality professional realize that's what they're really trying to target. Think about now how they speak. If they don't speak in terms of I've got this number of open complaints, etc. Instead, they say if we don't close this gap, we can't be sure that we're going to keep non-conforming product from getting out the door. And this person was able to find the words to be able to influence up to leadership to help them move the program forward. Talk about influence, talk about a lasting output. This person not only technically learned internal auditing, but they also gained new skills to influence and manage up. And that's what we're trying to do for our quality professionals. And so just a few things that what we could start doing today. You can step back and look at your organization and say, do I have everything in that 7P approach to achieve peace of mind? Do I have some of it, but not all of it? What can I do differently in any one of those areas to help moving forward towards peace of mind? If you help your people, you yourself start working within a framework, setting the foundational elements to acknowledge and build trust in your people, mentoring performance and leveraging technology as appropriate and building people towards an outcome, you actually start learning how to speak in the language of strategy development. And sometimes our professionals don't ever get that opportunity to think and act in that way. And I strongly propose that what we should be doing today is not only teaching our technical professionals the crafts that they need to do to solve problems or set the right foundation, but we need to integrate human development skills, the ability to message, the ability for them to speak in terms of purpose, not just results. We need to integrate the soft skills, the essential skills, as well as their technical skills. And so, call to action as I bring this to a close, simply think about what could you do differently? What did you get from today's conversation? If you wanted to connect with me, I do have a 7P assessment tool just to know where you're at in the spectrum. But could you start implementing this framework for significant projects or events, or maybe even setting performance objectives based on a purpose or an outcome? And could you start implementing or piloting a mentor program, or changing the role of a sponsor? Could you set up people that can help teams for higher level performance as part of what they're doing to solve problems, not separate? And so think about it. I hope this conversation has maybe given you some ideas to think differently about peace of mind, achieving an outcome based on purpose, and giving you ways to possibly influence change and leave a lasting impact. I'd love to continue the conversation with you. I have some of my contact information, but with that, I'll stop and pause and take questions.
Hello. Let's look at Slido. Thank you very much, Deborah, for that framework. It's interesting what you said about intellectual property. I was thinking about patents, but actually, yeah, a poster on your workplace is a legacy that you left, and that's intellectual property. So throughout this whole conference, there's a lot of discussion, debate about outcomes, goals, targets, and I think what we're saying here is carefully looking at what we want to achieve carefully. And thank you very much for this framework. So let's have a look at some of the questions here. First one, how does 7P model work in large organizations with many offices, where each office has its own past, culture, and people?
I mean, if I can respond to that, we celebrate that. When we learn and respect all of our differences and that diversity, you may have one culture that's very family oriented and loves to react. Other organizations may be more systematic, methodical, and disciplined. We may be different, but we have to recognize what makes them different and makes them successful, and see if we can leverage each other's past when appropriate towards a common goal.
Next question from Robin. How do you find out about people's past and special skills without prying into their past?
A great question, Robin. I mean, one of the things I think about is when we do work together, we do have to just take a little bit of time to just say what excites them, what are they proud of, what kind of work do they really enjoy, what gets them excited. And through just establishing rapport and conversation, you might get a glimpse or insight into what they do, what excites them. It may not have to be precisely the work, but if they like brainstorming, they like having a cup of coffee just to get to know people, or they really like detail work, maybe sharing your detail work with them. If nothing else, we're building trust in points of commonality without going into maybe the details and respecting the privacy.
Yes, so human skills, you've emphasized many things about being more human, being more emotional, and tying into the people's personal lives helps. Okay, how about the next question? How can we select a mentor to enhance and not only our professional skills, but also personal skills?
You know, we could talk another hour or so on what are the right skills, but I have recently at my local ASQ conference had a speaker, and mentors are people that listen deeply. The more they listen and ask probing questions, and then being able to share feedback or insights in a way that gets somebody to think versus simply do. Those are qualities of a great mentor. So if there is somebody in the organization, even outside of the organization, that has those skills, listening, communicating, and getting you to think, those are the people that are able to move people forward.
Yes, very personal people. Next question, and you raise this, how do you communicate ROI to employees? If you're a quality professional, you're not in the finance department, and now how are you going to dig out the ROI to see how this framework will work?
You know, that is very interesting, and it's always a challenge, but when we can help our professionals connect the dots, it's important. So, I mean, one example, maybe we need to upgrade a piece of equipment that will help us to catch defects so they don't get out to the customer. Maybe 5,000 Canadian or something like that. And sometimes the finance people will say, no, it's not in the budget. But if we help our quality professionals be able to say, if we continue to operate the way we do, and we have X% of defects that get out to our top 1 or 2 tier customers, we could lose 3% market share, which results in $3 million worth of business each year. Is that a risk we're willing to take? And when we put it in that context and relate it to top line growth and mentor our professionals, you might get at least a discussion before we say no, or maybe you might be surprised and they'll say yes.
Okay. Next question. Why do we need to present ourselves in a meeting to demonstrate we have the knowledge instead of coworkers trusting their manager or their peer?
I hope I can understand the question right. I think we have maybe you can help a little bit.
I think it was like that example about the person who crossed their arms and cut themselves off, and how you would have replayed that whole moment about trying to get buy-in to this person who wasn't interested.
That's a great question. Again, how to maybe build credibility, whether it's technical or insight or my abilities to lead a meeting. I will tell you now, I operate completely differently. But had I not made those mistakes and gotten the feedback, I may be operating the same way. But I think simply we do come together. Time is limited. We have work we need to do. That's why we're in business, to keep businesses running. But I think we need to be a little bit creative, 5 minutes here and there. Understand the people, get everybody grounded in what is the purpose of what we're trying to achieve. Just spend a couple 5 minutes. How are people feeling? I do that now before we get to work. If nothing else, it diffuses any tension or stress. It gets people grounded in the moment. You respect the human. They trust you in your leadership of what you're going to do, and they will trust you to guide you. So I think we just need to be a little bit more human and start with the humans first versus simply rolling up our sleeves and going to work.
Thank you. The next question from Freddie. Do you think this tool applies to leaders with any kind of personality? What about introverted leaders? I always think it was extroverted leaders, but how about leaders who are very, I guess, very quiet, which I'm not familiar with?
Freddie, thank you for your question. And let me say that I'm actually can be an introvert at times, especially when I'm not comfortable or I'm doing something different. But one time I had to ask for a promotion and I knew I wasn't 100% confident. But what I did was I took index cards and wrote down my talking points. I wrote down my framework for why I wanted to ask a question. And I'll tell you, for an introvert, when you can look at your data, have your talking points, or at least a framework, I wound up getting the promotion. So I think for an introvert, if nothing else, it gives you a tool to think and plan your approach and then come forward with more confidence. It can help any leader.
Thank you. Oh, from Santosh. ROI, I think that's what he means. ROI for quality initiatives have always been an issue to convince the CEOs. Your comments, please. Is this a repeat of the first question, or?
It's very similar, but Santosh, I will share with you a story. I too didn't understand the language of business. I even went to finance for dummies to learn about how to read a P&L, a profit and loss, and I kind of understood it. But until I was able to say, unless we reduce the number of defects and we're throwing out $300,000 US per year, we're going to impact our profitability rather than having profitability as a 25% of sales. We could be up to 30% of sales. If we just learn how to connect those dots and start using those finance pieces of language, first of all, it elevates you because there's a group of people in the room, whether it's operations, supply chain, or your finance people, that they don't understand you. But if you take the moment to learn their language, they're going to start listening and you're going to have a conversation, at least have a conversation in terms of ROA, and they may keep the doors open for whatever investment we need to make. So really important to learn how to speak the language of business at the highest level.
Yes, it looks like you need partnership and teamwork with your finance department to get some of those numbers to support and not be like a silo, I guess, a quality silo saying, reduce your defects and good night.
Tony said it very well. Thank you for that. Thanks for having my back for sure.
Right, but it might involve like all the departments, a teamwork with all the departments of the executive. Let's move on to a question here. Do you see more supervisors go through tactical methods instead of strategy method due to lack of time? I guess that's kind of like a panic approach to just let's try and solve something.
So let's do a fishbone diagram, and the head of the fish says supervisors don't understand strategy methodology. And I might propose that we go down the human or the method leg and ask 5 whys. It could be due to lack of time, but I'll ask the supervisors, does anybody communicate to them why it's important to connect the dots with the work that they're doing to the work that impacts the business, to the work that impacts the customer? We just don't take the time to educate them. And I think that's a real disservice. I never knew how to do a strategy. Nobody taught me. It wasn't in my performance reviews, but unless I wanted to have a greater impact, I think our leaders need to understand, where does the work that I do fit into the larger purpose or the outcome? And out of that, the strategy I propose may help you to start learning how to do strategy. So.
Thank you. Throughout this whole conference, there's been a lot of debate about panicking, managers who panic, and everybody tries to run it. And then the whole conference has been like, try and get the management to settle down and be more strategic and better. So.
Yeah, I mean, I can comment on that. We need our quality professionals to be technical and solve problems, but then we get feedback that we're not strategic. And then sometimes if you're too strategic and you don't get the work done, you need to be more tactical. It is a balance, but I think we need to put some things in place and get us more curious, because what we do is important, but how we do it in terms of the peace of mind or outcome is really how we build strategy. So, thank you.
Thank you, Deborah, for your framework. I hope we'll be passing out that material after the conference, and I put a link in the chat to directly communicate with you with any direct questions. So thank you very much for your presentation. So back to Tracy and Ascenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you all for attending the session. We truly hope you enjoy it. We'd love to hear your feedback on this, so please take a minute to answer this brief poll. We'll have 30 seconds to answer the poll. Okay, I will finish the poll. Thank you. Please join our next session, Session C, with Joselito Surya, topic Lean's greatest secret, the master key to achieving lasting success for your organization and yourself. And Session D, with Hayat Moon, how risk-based thinking can help to rethink opportunities. I will post the links on the chat.
All right, bye everybody. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
everyone. This is a reminder that this session is going to close at 12:30. Please join the sessions on the chat box. Thank you. Hello, everyone. The next sessions are going to start in 5 minutes. Please join the sessions that are on the chat box. Thank you. This session will be closing in 5 minutes. This session will be closed in 2 minutes. Please join our next sessions. This session will be closing now. Thank you.